All right, we're up. Okay, this is podcast number 2. Now you're in the exact same position. I'm on my computer, which is this is the pose that I have for most of my videos. I really want a better lighting situation because at night especially it's like kind of dim and I have some like crappy desk lamp that I'm pointing towards me, but it's not a professional lighting situation.
Phil, how's your injury?
Oh yeah, I should put on my wrist guard. Hold on. So not only did my 2 weeks ago I think the day before we recorded 2 weeks ago, I like twisted my foot really badly, so it fractured a bone. So that was bad. And then to make it even worse, like a week ago, like I was recovering. Like my first week, I was taking it really easy, but then I just got like overconfident because I was just like in the house, not moving much. So then I like try to like walk a little bit more, not like walk, but like steady myself on my foot, and then I fell again, unfortunately. So this time I rolled over my foot again, and I don't think I broke anything new. I think I probably just like slowed down the recovery. But the really bad thing is I like fell on my wrist, which is really bad. So I was afraid I broke something, but I don't think anything is like nothing is swollen. It just feels really like sore. So I have to hold on. I have to wear a wrist brace most of the time when I'm not on the computer because it just helps me stabilize my wrist so I don't accidentally twist it
Yeah.
or move it. But like this is really, I just need to rest it. But when I'm on my computer, I don't have the brace because it like gets in the way. But I try not to like type too much on the computer because it'll just get sore. So it's like it's really bad if this is like a chronic injury, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a grind, but it is what it is. So I'm just they're both on my right side also. So we'll see.
Did you get it checked?
I did not get the wrist check, so I should probably. I mean, I don't know. Like, I was debating whether to go to urgent care again, but it's like, unless there's like a huge amount of swelling or whatever, they don't really do much, right? They just take an X-ray and then charge you and like refer you out. So it's like, I don't think there's anything they really can do because it's not like they're gonna snap my wrist bones back or like if it's really a dislocation, it would really swell up and hurt a lot more. It doesn't really hurt. It's just very tender if I try to like put any weight on it. So I just want to like basically just take it easy. I mean, it's gotten better in the last week, but it doesn't feel exactly like the RSI, wrist pain, because that's like right down here. It's more on the very side.
Yeah.
Because it's like you twist your wrist and like it's like on the side. So, but I think it'll be okay. I mean, hopefully, or else my career is over.
So how are you getting work done now?
Uh I mean, I just am. I don't know. Like I just try not to type for that many hours a day. But like basically like if I'm not doing, I mean, it's actually, it's not that's a blessing in disguise, but it's like it's made me really productive and focused. And that like if I'm on the computer, I know I have like a limited number of keystrokes, right? Before I get tired. So I'm just like every keystroke counts, like no messing around. And then when I'm like done with whatever work I want to do, I just get off the computer. I'm like on my couch. I'm like, looking at my phone. I could just, browse my phone or my iPad with one hand and just like lie on the couch. But like I just stay off of the computer when I can. I did this over the summer too. Like I started getting RSI, just like carpal tunnel wrist pains, like in the middle or end of the summer. I think it's just a combination of just, maybe stress or, just typing a lot. And then I started getting it after a while. And then it wasn't serious. So I just didn't type that much in a day. I just, would do my like work session in the morning for a few hours. And then after 2 or 3 hours, my wrist starting to hurt. And then I just would just chill out for a long time for like the rest of the day. And then like maybe do a little at night or something. But really it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like if you get two or 3 hour sessions done of really good work, that's like a really good work day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just do that in the morning. I just do like a 2 or 3 hour in the morning and then like a 2 or 3 hour in late afternoon or early evening. That's like, that's pretty good. And it kind of helps that like a lot of my work now in the middle of the day is just like meetings and teaching and stuff. So I don't have to type, right? So it's like just me like waving my hands around talking and stuff. So that's that's not as strenuous on my hands. But it is really yeah, I mean if I could type zero, that would be really bad. But like, the having a few hours and then getting tired and then having a few more hours it's like I have found that my productivity has not decreased, and if anything, it may have increased because of that renewed focus, right?
And you could get around okay?
Not really, but I mean, so in the past 2 weeks, basically, I've just been staying in my in upstairs actually of our place. So I've just been chilling out, and I've been going to classes and stuff. I have a little scooter thing that I kind of ride around, and like I called like a shuttle on campus that they like for like disability services. That if you like have a medical note or whatever, you get in the system. I haven't tried it yet actually because so far I've just been in one. I can be in one building, but soon I'll need to get around campus and they like call a golf cart and stuff. But I have this little scooter thing. This is like the most boring thing in the world, but I have a scooter thing where you put one knee on it and you pedal. So it's like actually somewhat reasonable. So imagine just like a I don't know, just like a scooter, except you just put your right knee on it and then you use your left foot to pedal. So there's no like bike pedals or anything. It's just like wheels
Y-
and a handlebar.
Yeah. You could get it. How fast can you go on this thing?
Well, the goal isn't to go fast. I mean, the goal is to go as fast as you can walk, right? But the thing is, you can go faster than walking, but I don't think that's recommended because it's like that's like you just fall again, right? Yeah, I think my goal with that because I'm really impatient, so I want to like go faster. You can just like pedal it and go fast. I mean, not fast, but you can go. You can go at jogging speed if you want, right? But like that's not the goal because I think the goal is to be able to go along with someone who's walking. I think that's a good steady goal. So you just kind of like instead of stepping, you just pedal like every second.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can like walk along with someone. But yeah, but I'm really impatient. I'm like, oh, scooter, I could just scoot, but that's like really bad because it's not that stable. It's kind of a cheap scooter, right? So it's like, it's like not super stable. So you don't want to like fly down the hill with it. Yeah, it's like not good. Yeah. It's like you could go fast in a wheelchair if you want, but that's not really the purpose.
Do you have hills to contend with, or?
Well, I haven't so far. Fortunately, I haven't had to go around campus. But when I do, I think I want to call the ride, the shuttle, to like
Yeah.
shuttle me around campus. But yeah, I mean, like in theory, I could go, but it is kind of annoying because UCSD is pretty hilly. So
Yeah.
I would not want to shuttle. Like, I mean, I don't want to scooter around campus, but we'll see. I mean, it's not the greatest time to have this injury. Like summer would have been fine because I didn't have to go to campus for anything, right? But it's like the fall is like the most busy time because I double up on my teaching. So I teach more in the fall and I also run this seminar series. So we have this HCI design seminar series every Wednesday that I'm the faculty take turns organizing and I'm on the hook for organizing in the fall. So I planned it all in the summer. I invited all the speakers, made sure they make the arrangements. But like every Wednesday I have to host the speakers, arrange their schedules. Fortunately other people go around and meet with them, but like I still have to be kind of on the hook for making sure everything is there, right? And like introducing them at their talk. I like hobble into the talk, yeah, so it's like a pretty activity packed quarter for being injured.
Yeah.
But what can you do? But yeah, but that is a grind. But it's I don't know. It could be worse. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to eat up all our time talking about uninteresting, mundane topics. Oh man, you got a tea?
No, no, just water.
Oh man, free water. It's a perk of the office. You also have better office lighting than my like dim, like a dingy setup. Yeah. So one thing I want to get is like a just like a studio light, like one of those things where like they have in photography studios or like in like I guess when they're filming MOOCs or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
just like one of these light things, and there's like a big light box that diffuses the light, so it's like a super bright light, but it's diffused, so like it looks a lot more even on the lighting. So that's what people use when they're like filming these MOOC videos or things.
Can you see yourself filming a MOOC or?
That's a good question. So I've been asked to do that on a few occasions, but it's one of these things where I think I've heard from various people. It's like it's a lot of work, and it's like no longer a new thing anymore, right? I mean, it's like there are a billion MOOCs about Python or data science or data analysis or programming or whatever I would teach. There are already like a billion of them, right? And it's like is it is the world better served and is my time better served by like spending 1,000 hours on yet another one that will be on a platform that no one will find because there's like 1,000 of them.
So the
uh,
people asking you, what's their motivation to get your course?
Because UCSD wants to do more MOOCs, just like many colleges. So the motivation is that, I mean, the immediate motivation is that UCSD already has a like a big data MOOC series on Coursera, and they have some other ones that I don't think they've announced yet for things. But basically, they want faculty to give these courses so that it kind of enlarges the portfolio for the school, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so for them, it's from what I hear from just very kind of casual discussion so far is that, and they have resources, right? They have like studio space, and they have, I mean, UCSC is pretty serious about the MOOC space. It's one of the kind of more prominent MOOCs on, they have a few Coursera ones that are actually very widely attended. So they're pretty serious about it. They're not just like a random school that's like, oh, let's just make a MOOC because everyone else is. Like, they actually have a pipeline and staff and people and stuff. So their motivation is obviously, they want a portfolio and they want, interesting faculty to teach this. And the I mean, some of the people I know who've taught this is it can actually be like a reasonable kind of side revenue stream if your thing gets popular, right?
Mm.
So if your thing gets popular, I don't know exact numbers, but it is like a kind of, supplemental summer salary kind of thing, right? So it's like, yeah. So it's, I mean, but that is only if you get like a really popular course. I mean, like, no one pays for your course, and it's like nothing, right? I mean, if it's all for free and no one pays for it, I think the money trickles down from people who pay, right? And and for it to trickle down to the instructor is like pretty low. It's like there's many people who take the money before it goes to the instructors. So it's like, I think you only make money if like it's the really, really, really popular one. And it's like, for me, it's like, yeah, I don't really feel at this point. And also it's like for, the general vibe for pre-tenure faculty is that since doing these MOOCs really doesn't count for anything like on your record, it's not officially part of your job, right? So it doesn't really do much for your career directly beyond just like, oh yeah, I had a MOOC. So given all the time it takes, it's usually not advised. I mean, I would not advise pre-tenure faculty to do it. I would not advise, and I think that's a general sentiment that, unless you're like made the first one, right? Like you're in 2011 and it's like really exciting and it's like the first thing that everyone's doing. And then you get, really famous off it. But now it's like there are thousands of them out there. And, I am interested in producing, one thing I am interested in is, obviously I've been doing a lot of these videos is just exploring producing, small bite-sized pieces of video content for various things, right? And I think that's really interesting, but that doesn't have to be like on a giant MOOC platform with like multiple choice assignments and all the stuff with it, right? I mean, I like the idea of producing knowledge and like putting it online in both video and interactive forms and stuff, but I don't think, I don't feel the urge to need a branding behind it at this point.
Yeah, can you talk more about like you think you see like an opportunity in terms of short form videos? Like what kind of stuff would you want to produce?
That's a great question. I mean, already these vlogs I really like. So, these 10-minute things where I just, it's funny because these vlogs, one mental model I have of them, again, it just emerged just from doing it, is like, I would want to make there's this MOOC on Coursera called Learning How to Learn. I think it's one of the most popular ones.
By, like Barbara Oakley?
Yeah, Barbara Oakley and Terrence Stanowski. And so, he's a really famous neuroscientist here at the Salk Institute, and Barbara Oakley's, I think she's in engineering education or something. And they basically distill down kind of like learning principles and meta skills, right? Like metacognitive and learning principles into like a course. I haven't actually looked at the course. I've just read some of the materials about it and the summaries and talks, but I it's a very popular one because I think it's like adult learners want to like go back to school or want to learn. I mean, it's kind of like a meta MOOC, right? It's like, if you want to be an independent learner to learn from all these MOOCs and you're not in school anymore, you got to like figure out how to like study and how to remember stuff and like get back in the workflow of being a student. And, it kind of goes along with a lot of the Cal Newport stuff about study skills and like discipline and carving out time to study and like repetition and all this stuff. So that was interesting to me. And what I would want to do if I do something in this space, I mean, it doesn't have to be on a MOOC platform. It could just be on my website, is something like that, but even like higher level and more meta. So like, it turns out, I think a lot of these vlogs that I have are really done in response to, students or colleagues or people just asking me for just general professional development advice or career advice kinds of things. And a lot of the snippets that I have are just kind of drawn from my experiences or other people's experiences. But like, it's gotten to the point where I can kind of start showing people videos instead of telling them answers, right? It's like I already have kind of cached answers for a lot of it. And I used to do that with my articles, but I felt like the articles are usually kind of long and these videos are a bit more bite sized. And it's like, I'll give you a really specific example, super specific example of this. I mean, it's more grad school related, but like, recently I have, imagine you have students who publish papers and they have to give talks on it at conferences. So I have now, I have a few students who are giving talks at a conference, at the WIS conference in the next few weeks. And one of my students had to make like a master's thesis defense out of his paper. So basically it's like, the workflow is you get the paper published, hopefully, and that's like your primary source, and like everything else is gravy, right? Because once you have the paper, then you can like make a talk out of it, you can make a demo or whatever. And we went through a workflow of him making his talk from his paper. So, and then I gave him some feedback and we iterated, and I kind of thought about, like what process could I distill this into, because I'm sure other students will need to publish papers and then make a conference talk out of it, or publish papers and make a master's defense or a PhD talk out of it. So that like paper to talk workflow seems pretty common. And so I just recorded like a short video, like a 10-minute thing about how we did it. We, went through the paper intro and tried to turn that into a bunch of slides. And then we, we just, just general slide guidelines for, things. So now what I did is I just set that, I have several other students who need to make talks from their papers, and I'm like, all right, send me a first prototype, but to get started, just watch this video and just like get started, right? So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I would give them the same spiel no matter what. Like I would have to give them the exact same spiel, right? So these sorts of like micro advising things, or like or like what happens if a paper gets rejected, right? I have like the same spiel I give to everyone, right? Like like the same reassurance spiel I give. I don't think I have that video yet, but like I think I have hints of it in other places, right?
So most of the videos, someone prompted the question, or like
indirectly. I don't think usually it's not like someone's like make a video about X. It's like organically out of conversations I've had with one student or multiple people, some themes come out and I'm like, oh yeah, this like seems like a good thing to make a video on. That's why like I have no shortage of topics to make videos on, right? Which is because I think it's much harder if you're doing in isolation, right? If you're like living in the forest somewhere and not talking to anyone, then it's much harder to make non-crackpot videos, right? But it's like if you're actually interacting with people daily or weekly and real problems come up or real issues come up, I think the videos or the blogging, it's a way to generalize the stuff that you've seen, right, and observe. And I think those are really cool because they're very organic and they're very experiential, and they will likely apply in some form to future things. So you get some kind of reuse out of that. So in terms of like the video content, I think it would be really cool to imagine, someday have a library of hundreds of these videos. And it's very much like the Khan Academy thing, right? We're kind of starting with these bite-sized arithmetic and simple math videos and building that up. And I have a bunch of these bite-sized videos about, not necessarily just like academia stuff, but just about things that I run into. I think, organizing that into some kind of interesting format could be cool, because the raw data is there. So that's just my intuitions on that. So like I don't have an aspiration to be like, I want to teach Python or whatever, because like there's a bazillion people doing that, right? But I think this sort of like, I wouldn't say like career advice, but just like, stuff for professional development that's like, somewhat couch in academia, but somewhat general as well. I think there's an interesting thing there that I see. And that's what I'm motivated to make a lot of these videos. But again, once again, it's like these videos are made as a hobby of whatever the heck I feel like making. It's not like I have an assignment saying this week I need to finish one on X and this week I need to finish one on this topic, because that would just be super like artificial, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty impressed that you pump them out pretty regularly.
Yeah, well, that's because it's easy to do, right? That's exactly right. Like that, it's regularly, but it's not like on a schedule. It just happens to be whenever I want to record something. But like I've made it so easy to record stuff that like it's like pretty trivial. I mean, I think especially in the last few weeks, because I've just been sitting at my desk all day, right? Like I can't really get out. So I just, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just like record something. It just takes like 15 minutes. So it's like, oh, I'll just record this thing. But yeah, and then I just have this like really simple workflow where I just, put on YouTube, and I just like and again, this is part of the tooling too, right? So uh I basically just, the workflow is I upload it to YouTube. I mean, I just record it on my computer on like QuickTime. It's like, whatever crappy webcam there is. But in fact, the audio I think is the most important, because like no one cares to like watch me in HD. It's just the audio. And then I upload it to YouTube. I just like put some metadata in the YouTube comment, like the description, like the date and like the URL of like the web page that I want to eventually make. And then I run a script on my computer, which downloads, I publish it on YouTube first as public and put it on the vlog, or the podcast, the vlog playlist. So I say publish public vlog, and then it's actually public on YouTube. And then I run a script on my computer, which grabs the scripts the API only access public videos unless you have some like private thing. So which is fine because my thing's already public. And then it grabs the videos and downloads the ones I haven't downloaded yet. It downloads them, and then it rips the MP3s out, puts that in a separate place, and then then I just have another script that just creates like a shell web page on my website for the video, and that shell web page has the title. I just put some categories which no one uses, and then that like blob has the YouTube video and has like the podcast, the audio file as well. And that also has the podcast feed that updates the RSS feed for the podcast. So like with one click, I literally put it on, and it's on everyone's podcast apps, and it's on YouTube, and it's on my website. So it's like, when that's that simple to do, then it's just like, you can just like crank it out.
Is the audio more popular or the video?
I think the audio is pretty popular. I mean, I have downloads, so I just host it all myself. Yeah. So I have actually, I started, it's funny you asked that, because I started downloading my server logs from my web hosting service. I didn't used to do this because I just used Google Analytics just to see who's visiting my website. It's like not that big of a deal. But because these are direct downloads of MP3 files, it doesn't show up on Google Analytics unless I do something special. But I have the Apache, the server logs. So I download the server logs every day, and I can like grep through them and see how many MP3 downloads there are. So there seems to be, actually, let's just do it right now. Hold on. We'll do a live demo here. Hold on one second. I'm gonna put my mic down. I want to mute the mic. Hold on. All right, you can talk while I mute the mic. So
I don't know what to say.
Hold on. All right. You can do some running commentary while I pull up my numbers. All right, I can't talk with the mic on, unfortunately. Where is this stuff? Hold on. I think there's log. Yeah, but it's all self-hosted. So I'm just gonna give an example. MP3, I think they're MP3 files. Yeah. Okay, so. Yeah, so it varies every day, but in the last few days, it's been like, around 500 downloads a day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's way more than the videos. So the videos don't get that many views. Like I can see the views on YouTube. It's not like Casey Neistat, right? It's not like I post a video and it gets like 800,000 views in an hour, right? Like it's usually the video views. I mean, you can see on YouTube, it's like, a bunch of people just see in the beginning. It's like, they're all like at about 100 views.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I think that the podcast, and even when I had on YouTube for, a year without the podcast format, there are people who've been asking for that. So that's how I knew that the podcasting format was pretty popular. So then when that was up, it's, with the feed, and I think when people just subscribe, it just is always in their player. So whenever there's something new, they just refresh and they just click it.
And how often do you get comments on the podcast?
Oh, I turn off all comments. Yeah. I have no comments on anything. Yeah,
or what about emails?
I get very few emails because I discourage people from emailing me. I have this thing in my email that says like, don't email me. No, it basically says, I have this cold email thing, which we can talk about, which is, I just have a thing on my contact page that says, I mean, I'm just reading it verbatim. It says, I have one simple request for cold emails. If you want me to respond to your cold email, make sure I can read and respond to it within 1 minute.
Yeah,
And I said,
yeah.
otherwise, I probably won't respond. It's nothing personal. It doesn't mean that, something wrong. It's just that I get too many emails. And ever since putting that, I actually don't get that many cold emails, actually. Uh, and the ones that I do get are actually pretty decent. so maybe it's like a reasonable filter. But yeah, occasionally I get people having emails saying like, oh, well, like, it'd be good to have the podcast up or whatever. But it's nothing like, they're not that much of it. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like not having comments just weeds out the kind of really trivial comments like, oh man, the sound's bad, or like, oh man, like, why is the lighting so bad, right? It's like people won't bother to email you because they're like, oh, the lighting sucks, but they'll like you leave in a comment, and it's just like it's not that interesting.
Do you get feedback in any way, or?
Did I get feedback in any way? Not really. I'm just kind of shouting into a void at this point. I mean, that's a good thing to talk about. Is that I thought about this a lot actually. My lack of comments. I think my philosophy on this is like, this is not a critical path thing. So it's something that I like to just
Okay.
develop my own. And if it has immediate value for people and I send it out to them, that's good. And if it's just in the ether and people find value in it or whatever, that's cool too. But I'm not like hoping to optimize the heck out of it, right? So I think the iteration is really important. If I'm hoping to increase my viewer counts by any, then that's important. Not just feedback, but like what to do with it, right? But I don't really care about that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're actively preventing it from becoming a time sink. Like,
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it. Yeah, so not doing stuff that will make it a time sink would be key, because I think once it becomes that way, then it'll start to feel like a grind, and I wouldn't want to do it.
yeah,
Like, I think it will teeter to the brink of not being fun anymore, and I think that
yeah,
would just be, yeah. I think that's part of the no comments thing either. It's like yeah, and I think that the potential benefits of it will just be outweighed by the potential downside and discouragement. It's like, oh yeah, what a grind. Yeah.
And it seems like, I mean, I've watched a few of the vlogs. It seems like you're more comfortable like now than you were before. Like, do you notice that in yourself, or like?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's right. So even in the absence of feedback, um, I think that you can improve incrementally. And and the part is I have self feedback, right? Like, I watch all my own things and I listen to them. So I like listen to them and I watch them.
Yeah,
So it's not like I just put it out and I don't have anything. So I listen and watch it, but I don't like obsess over it. Right?
yeah,
So it's kind of akin to, it's like if if you want to improve public speaking and you give a bunch of practice talks in front of the camera and you just watch yourself. Even doing that can give you a lot of info,
yeah,
right? Even without anyone else telling you, you can still get a good amount out of that. But obviously it's better if you have other people. But yeah, so that's my that's kind of the spiel on that. I mean, the whole spiel on this is to like not make it to the point where it's such a grind that I don't want to do it, right?
yeah. I'm pretty impressed. Yeah. So most of the time it's one take, or like all the time it's one take,
Yeah, it's
or?
all the time it's one take. All the time. And in fact, the older ones have some edits in them if you notice. But YouTube's YouTube's video editor, they shut it down last month. So
Oh,
at this one it is literally one take. I think some of them I did a second. Some of them, I think one of them I did a second take. I think one or two of the videos I just did it once and then like I didn't really feel it. And then I was like, I'm not really feeling it that much. And then later in the day, I just did the exact same thing pretty much. I just said the same thing, but I was feeling it more.
mm-mm.
So it's like a two take. I mean, sometimes like it is more than one take, and that like I start up in the first minute, I'm like, I'm not really feeling this. And then I just like do it again, like, a minute later or something. So I guess it's multiple takes, but it's like only the beginning is a false start.
Yeah, yeah. And do you ever struggle to press publish, or is it pretty?
Not really.
Oh,
Well, I mean, the only ones where I was just not feeling, I just felt like I was low energy or kind of tired, and I'm like, it's like not that interesting.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I don't have like a pile of unpublished things, and I think that's part of the philosophy too. Of even in my writing too. Of I'm pretty adamant about if I start something, I'll actually Yeah, well, that's the other thing, right? Like with the recording video, like it's not like I just suddenly think of something on top of my head and record it. Usually it's something has been stewing in my mind for a while, like in the shower, or like I've seen something over like 3 days this week, and I'm like, it's been stewing in the back of my head. And now that I have this format and this platform for doing it, then I know that that's one outlet, right? So like I know that a 10-minute video can be an outlet. So I think my brain subconsciously, when it stews on things, it can think of, oh yeah, this thing could be an outlet for this. So I feel like, subconsciously my brain forms around these 10-minute chunks because I know I can put it out.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds pretty powerful. Yeah, because like
I think
sometimes
so.
I'm in the shower and I think I'm thinking stuff, and then I walk out and I have no idea what I was thinking. So yeah, having a concrete outlet, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's like whatever is in the shape of it will shape your thoughts, but maybe it's okay, right? I mean, it shapes our thoughts in this 10-minute box, but it's a fine format for these really lightweight things. But yeah, I think that's a really cool concept of I think that's also, imagine, one of the things I've always wanted to do is like learn how to sketch better and like draw better. I mean, I draw a lot of stuff on my board, but it's like not well very good. But I just imagine, because I have a lot of like like in the shower, I have a lot of these visual ideas too, but I'm not able to make them concrete. So I don't ever take them that far. So like I think that if I like knew how to draw sketches, comics, those kinds of things, I think I would really like that. And that's one of the things I really wanted to learn for a while, but I have like no energy now. But one day, I keep on saying one day I'll do that, because I think that'll be an awesome thing in the repertoire of just like being able to think visually about something, about like an idea or a storyboard or something, and just being able to like sketch it out in 10 minutes. And I think that's like awesome.
Yeah, yeah. You had that one.
Yeah, the
Like
grind comic.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, I should bring that back. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I had the seedlings of that. This was like 10 years ago in grad school. Yeah. So that was, as for everybody who doesn't know what it is, which no one does because it was only out for like a month. It was just like a web comic thing. I would just draw on it wasn't like XKCD in that it wasn't like, stick figures. It was more like graphs. Like there was that website a while back. It's called I don't remember what it was called, but Index, I think. This was like 10 years ago. It was basically a bunch of index cards where people would draw Venn diagrams or like funny graphs with XY axes. And it was very much in that format of just like, here's a concept, time versus money, or like, a Venn diagram of something, or like, I don't remember what the other ones are on, but they're like basically sketched out graphs about concepts of things, right? And that was easy for me to do because I just have these colored markers, and I would just literally sketch it on a piece of paper and just take a picture of it and upload it and upload it to site. So I like that. So I would like to go back to that kind of thing, except a bit more sophisticated in the future with with more nuance and stuff. But I haven't felt the need to explore that yet. But I would love to. One of the things is to and I've tried a few times on and off with sketch tablets, these digital tablets and like tablet computers and stuff, and sketching stuff, and I've kind of liked it, except for the fact that my sketches aren't like super neat, right?
yeah.
But if they could be in the future, if I could combine, this is sort of the dream too, if I can combine the short video format with video and with sketching, with live sketching and stuff, I think there's a really interesting medium there where you do video and audio. So I think there's just something there, I feel, for the coming decade.
Have you seen the 3 blue, 1 brown videos?
No, what is that?
It's like intuition behind math topics like linear algebra and calculus. It's very, very well done. Yeah. Just a thought, because you had mentioned, combining like interesting visuals with the audio. It
is hand drawn?
No, it's generated using, he has some Python library to make visuals.
Oh, I gotta watch this. Hold on. We could stream my screen and then like get it taken down for piracy or something. Let me see. That's the problem with this handheld mic. I can't hold it and talk.
Yeah, 3 blue, 1 brown. It's amazing.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's a website. It's 3 blue, 1 brown with a number 3. With number 1. Oh wow, animated map. Okay, I got to check this out. Yeah, so these things are really cool. It's just that I am not super interested in doing these in particular because they just seem like they take a long time. Oh,
Yeah,
another thing that I've watched, well, I haven't seen this in particular, but there are just these YouTube videos of these short explainer videos, right? Of just like explaining, so I don't watch the super dense ones because like I'm not actually trying to learn anything, but like just kind of like the like just interesting ones about geography or science or something about like, oh, like what's the oldest continent or like whatever. And it's just like these animations, right? Of just like maps or things about the world that's just kind of like interesting trivia.
yeah,
And like some of these channels have a lot of views, and like they make one a week or something. It's usually some kind of animation and voice. It's like probably some kind of 2D animation, like some kind of illustration with some photographs and stuff and like clever editing. It just seems like they take a long time to make.
do you have a channel recommendation?
There's this one called Real Life Lore that I like. It's called Real Life Lore, all
Okay.
one word. Well, I guess you can search multiple words, and I think that's the best one. That's my favorite one. I don't, I just look through related videos or random ones, but this guy, Real Life Lore, is yeah, he does a bunch of stuff. Let me look up right now. I'm just gonna read you the titles from YouTube. Um, so popular ones are how the world map looks wildly different than you think. That's like the idea about how like on the map, these projections are really different, right?
Like Greenland's super huge.
Yeah. So then he just shows these animations, and then how far away can you get from everybody else? So it's like, what's the place on land that's the farthest away from every other human? How deep can we dig? What's the deepest hole we can dig? How big do tsunamis get? And then he does a lot of these comparisons, right? They're very visual. It's like, how big are these tsunamis? And it's like I said, bigger than a building. It's like, here's how big buildings are, here's how big mountains are, and here's how big tsunamis are. So they're very visual comparisons. And will humanity reach another star in your lifetime? So they're usually building up these topics. Like, what happens if we drain the entire Mediterranean Sea?
Do you know the answers to all these?
Do I know the answers? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they explained it in the video.
Like
I mean,
the digging one, the hole. What's
well,
the
I think
limit
these
there?
are hypothetical. I mean, I don't. You watch the video. I mean, a lot of these are kind of hypothetical, right? It's like they're thought experiments, kind of, and they, I think these are things that people talk about in like science forums or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Rotation. Or like the Mediterranean Sea one is like they actually had a proposal, half serious one, to cap off the Mediterranean Sea at the like wherever Spain and Morocco meets, like the really short strait that's like really tiny. So if you can like build a giant dam to cap it off there essentially, and then you can cap it off at several other sites too. Or there's like a video like, can we build a road that goes all the way around the world? Like, and what would that require? Right?
Yeah.
What kind of infrastructure would that require to do that? And then he kind of dives into like, where are the places on Earth that are like the closest connecting oceans, and like how could you like drive around the world and stuff. So like they're like just interesting thought experiment things. A lot of it's about geography, but just other sorts of I guess the theme of Real Life Lore is more like geography and maybe some stuff in space as well. But or like another one was like, how densely can we pack all of the world's population, right? So like if all of the world's population were packed together, how much area would that take up, and how would people actually live in that, in that amount of density?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, now you're gonna watch Real Life Lore like nonstop. And there's some other ones too, but I don't know how I got on this topic, but I guess it's all related to video, 10-minute video content, right? Because these are all 10 minutes or shorter. They're like, they're 8 minutes, and they're very tightly edited, right? I mean, like they're, you could tell they took a long time to make.
Yeah. Hey Phil, your thing, the MOOC. I know you said you weren't seriously considering it, but like it seemed like you were considering it more than I thought you would. Like, what's the appeal of it to you?
What, you mean really doing a
MOOC,
MOOC? Like a real MOOC, or just putting my
yeah.
own things up, like
Or
a real official?
Like the UCSD MOOC. It sounded like
yeah.
you didn't like immediately throw away that idea. Like you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of not immediately throwing away idea is that like, there are serious people who want me to do it, right? So I can't dismiss it offhand, right? So it's like there are. So I mean, the latest news is that we have this I mean, this is not just a MOOC thing, but like we got the $75 million donation by this guy, Tamir Halcianu. He's an early Facebook engineer. He was a UCSD CSE computer science engineering alum. And then he was like a really early Facebook engineer that got a bunch of money. And he made this $75 million donation to start a data science institute. So it's like really huge news because out of the data science initiatives, like that's one of the biggest donations that I know of, at least, especially by one guy.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty big. I mean, Steve Ballmer gave 30 million to Harvard for computer science. I mean, that was 30 million, right? This is like double that. So, this is like, it's serious money. So, they're starting up data science things. And, since a lot of my work, my research is, somewhat related to data science stuff. And it's something that I'm really interested in on a grander level. There are definitely people who want me to be more involved in these sorts of initiatives. I mean, this is all very early, but like later on, hopefully if my career here goes well, I think I would be more involved in this, whatever this thing is going to create, right? Institute, whatever minor, whatever thing, right? There's nothing that's been set yet, but like, I am tangentially in these kinds of conversations because of my current standing. All right.
Yeah.
But and not just data science, but just programming in general, like this idea of spreading programming across different majors around campus is a big thing. So like, I am on people's radars and that, but it's interesting because, I have to balance out my own kind of pre-tenure objectives of, really focusing on the research and really focusing on establishing my core program with this kind of forward-looking thing. I would like to be in touch with all these things to a certain extent because it's, it's good for the school. It's good for, for everyone and stuff. So, but so far, my whole approach has been, expressing an interest, but I still want to get tenure in the next few years, kind of thing. And people understand that for the most part. Like they get that, and when you're pre-tenure, you have a better sort of alibi because people understand that you have this short-term grind you have to do.
Yeah, it sounds like you genuinely want to do it post tenure.
Like, yeah. And I don't know if it will be in the form of a MOOC, right? Like it may be in something else, right? Maybe getting involved in data science or maybe getting involved in planning these whatever things, right? I may not be the one like recording it, but I may be involved in planning it or advising, being an advisory board, like, being tangentially involved in these things. I actually recorded so I because I did not do a data science MOOC at this point, one of my colleagues who did end up doing it, he wanted me to like record like a guest lecture or whatever. It wasn't really a lecture. It was just like a, tell me about your work kind of thing, right? So I actually went to like the studio thing and like stood there and recorded like a 10-minute spiel about something, right? So like I got to see the thing. So yeah, so like these sorts of things are like easy to do. It's like giving a guest lecture in someone's class. Like, oh yeah, that's fun. Like if you have a course and even if you want me to do like a lecture about something, I'll do it. It's like that seems fun. Just schedule a time and I'll just like give a spiel. Yeah, so I'm interested in this area, but it's definitely not something that's at the top of my mind at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't even consider it, but now that I understand the larger situation where there's a lot of energy behind this data science thing, it sounds, yeah,
it's definitely not a, many schools and MOOCs, especially smaller schools, in the early days was like, it was like, oh wow, all these other places are doing MOOCs. Let's just do a random one just so we can get on the Coursera website. Like that just didn't seem that appealing to me. But yeah, I mean, UCSD definitely has a lot of energy. And also one of my new graduate students, he's from, he worked for the past 2.5 years. He worked at Johns Hopkins. So the other big player in MOOCs, besides UCSD, in data science is Johns Hopkins. So they have, this is where Roger Peng is from, the guy who podcasts a lot.
Yeah.
So they have a few faculty, I think 3 faculty, or maybe even more, that do a series, a specialization called data science or something. And apparently that's really popular because, you can imagine people paying for that. And they have, a dozen courses or so on data science. And this guy, Sean, who's my new PhD student now, he worked for them as like a staff member for the past like 2.5 years. So he was like the behind the scenes guy who like helped them arrange their MOOCs and like, worked with Coursera software and like built the infrastructure behind it, and did a lot of that behind the scenes work. So he's very interested in doing research in this area. Has a lot of hands-on experience, but also just kind of in the more general, I'm just kind of trying to get kind of awareness of it through students and collaborators as well, even without super diving in. So I think that's a cool thing about, I think, being in a university situation where you get exposure to that, is that like I can keep these more distant things on my radar, even though I'm not like every day I'm not actively doing a MOOC or like, writing code and grinding on the Coursera platform or whatever, or edX or whatever. But like I keep these in the back of my head, and I meet with colleagues about it and just kind of talk about it. And it's sort of like things are in the air, right? And we'll see where that leads, if any.
Yeah, how big of a like MOOCs as a part of your research? Like how much of your research is centered around MOOCs versus like other online education?
That's a great question. Talk about for hours, but basically I would say like zero, because basically my whole I guess my whole ploy was that, when these MOOCs were getting really popular back in 2012, 2013, that was the like wave that I rode to kind of get myself a faculty position back in academia. So even though I didn't do a MOOC, but like this Python tutor thing was very MOOC involved, right? I could say that people used it in MOOCs, and like and it was, online education, teaching programming, like coding was really hot, and that energy. That was my first round of job interviews. I applied in late 2012. I interviewed in early 2013. So it was about a year after all the MOOCs launched. So that was just like amazing timing for that. And a lot of my, conversation with people was around MOOCs and online education stuff. And then once I got my faculty job, if you recall, I delayed it for a year, and I went to edX and MIT. And during that year, I did like MOOC research, which was like, data mining these edX MOOCs. And we had a few papers, like 3 papers off of that. And I'm also like involved on the program committee of Learning at Scale, which is like a new conference that sprung up like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, about, not just MOOCs, but just kind of online learning kind of in general. And anyways, long story short is, in recent years, I've basically, as the MOOC hype has been going down, and Sebastian Thrun and Udacity have flipped the table, and they're like, MOOCs are dead. We're not feeling MOOCs anymore. We're just gonna do professional development. Did you see that? Like their latest Udacity press push has been like, oh, MOOCs are, we're not feeling MOOCs. MOOCs are a mistake. We're gonna do something completely different. Like, because I think they're obviously not winning against Coursera in the MOOC space. So they're, rebranding totally as like professional training.
Yeah. I mean, you can make the case that as a business, maybe that's the
no, totally. I totally agree. But I think it's just funny how, Sebastian was the one who's really pushed the MOOC thing in the beginning, right? Like MOOCs are going to change the world. They're going to kill all these universities and everything. Now it's like, no one's feeling MOOCs for universities. We're going to feel this really targeted professional training thing. But yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense business wise. But it's funny. It's like the exact same person who, was the big proponent of MOOCs.
Yeah. So by the time you did your UCSD job talk, like what was the theme?
Yeah. So the theme there was still like, it was kind of learning programming at scale, right? So it was still learning at scale and using HCI to help facilitate learning at scale. But I think I mentioned the word MOOC like 0 times. Yeah, I think I purposely mentioned the word education or MOOC or online education or MOOC like 0 times. I think it was on purpose. Yeah. Because I think about that time, everyone was, it's very oversaturated, overhyped thing. And it's like, yeah. So by the time the UCSD interview, which was 2016, I was pretty firmly into, HCI and online learning, but, nothing really directly with MOOCs. And just from a strategic perspective, it's not like I have direct access to a bunch of MOOC stuff to do stuff with MOOCs, right? Because I don't have my own MOOC, right? Like in theory, UCSD has a bunch of MOOCs I could study and do stuff with, but then that involves getting access to stuff and like relying on other people's data, right?
Yeah.
And other people's courses. And I think it's just a lot easier when you can kind of control your own field, right? So you know, yeah. And personally, you know, doing this sort of more technical HCI sort of work is what I've been doing for a long time too. It's just, the way I would describe it is that I'm primarily in the HCI research community, but a lot of the applications of what I do are learning and education and tutorial related. Um, but yeah, but I think I probably had nothing in terms of publication that are purely like, oh, we're going to do something with MOOCs. I think the one thing I did my first year at Rochester was this. We did this paper where we grabbed all the forum posts from one of the programming MOOCs and we just analyzed those, and like we kind of just manually hand categorize a lot of those to kind of doing this qualitative study about forums, which I thought was interesting because it informs a lot of interesting tools development. But yeah, but beyond that, I think that forum thing where we just looked at forums, and then the edX MOOC where we did data mine, that was like the only thing I did. So yeah, so I that's a really good question. I think that's definitely one of these going with the flow sort of things.
So are there hot themes right now?
It's funny that I mean, it's I think about this a lot, but there are hot themes, but I am not in a position to pivot to them. Right. So the hot thing is that everything is about machine learning and deep learning now.
Yeah.
I mean, like absolutely I mean, if you want hot themes, especially even in HCI, would be around HCI and machine learning. I think that's like, it's to the point where Google this year, they have these faculty research award grants every year they give out, and this year they added a category called human AI interaction. Like that's how, top of mind it is for everyone.
Yeah.
And doing stuff with interpretable machine learning, visualizing machine learning results, everyone is plugging toward machine learning and deep learning. And it's like, it's interesting because like all these communities, like even in like software engineering and programming languages, people are just like applying deep learning to large repositories of code, or like for visualization people, they want to like try to understand what's going on in these neural nets and these deep learning networks and trying to visualize things. So like a lot of stuff is converging around that. But, that's just something that at this point I'm not well suited to pivot towards. So I just kind of, stay the course at this point.
Are you tempted at all to pivot, or
not really? Not at this point, because it's I think, I think that until kind of tenure time, you really want a nicely unified set of work that you're well suited to do.
Yeah.
And the fortunate thing I think is, again, it's a knock on wood thing, but in general, I mean, just statistically, it's, the gatekeeping for the faculty position is really at the hiring point, rather than the tenure point in general, right? Obviously there are special cases, but in general, for most places, if they're hiring you for a tenure track spot, that means that they have that spot potentially, for your career, right?
Yeah.
So in general, it's, you don't get tenure if, you're not doing enough work or they're not feeling it. It's not like you have to try to get tenure and get a new spot to open up. That's very much unlike, some places. So, I've heard in departments and places like Princeton, like back in the day, I mean, people talk about this all the time, where it's very explicit. And I think my mom talked about this too back when she was interviewing at Harvard for a position, for a junior faculty position for assistant professors. They call it something else, or like they I don't know what they call it. I think they call it assistant professor still, but it's very clear in the job ad that like this is not a permanent spot. Like it's very clear that it is a tenure track spot with the possibility of promotion and tenure, but like, I don't know how the economics work, but like, for one spot, it's like literally we are hiring 5 assistant professors, but we will only have 1 tenured spot.
I see.
And that may not even go to any of you, because we might just hire some famous person, right? Right? Like at the end of 5 years, we might just not hire any of you, and some like Nobel Prize winner will just hire because like they won the Nobel Prize or something, right?
Yeah.
So like that, in those cases, that's much more explicit. But for both of the jobs I've got, and I think for everyone I've interviewed for, I'm pretty sure it's been a tenure track spot. That's your spot. All right. So unless you screw up or, people kick you out, it's your spot. So anyways, that's a long story short of saying that the hiring time is when they do a lot of the gatekeeping, and basically that this is the whole thing with the MOOCs and the framing and stuff. So like the framing at the time you're hired, I think is super important because that determines who gets the job offers. But I feel like my mental model is once you get hired, they're hiring you for that research agenda. And the hope is you stay the course for those 5 or 6 years and you show that you can deliver on this, this research direction that you're an expert in. And then, you hopefully get tenure. So this is a long answer to your question of it's not really advisable to pivot after you're hired before tenure because you're on a path that you have some momentum on and they'll give you tenure for that path.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So then afterwards people can pivot and stuff. But again, I don't have tenure yet, so I don't know what actually happens. But from looking at people's CVs and paths, they usually stick on that path. Because I guess the long answer to that is it's okay if by the time, maybe the mental model here is that when you get hired, a lot of times people are hired in a year when that thing happens to be really hot, whether it's MOOCs or online learning or deep learning now, or whatever, right? But by the time you get up for tenure 6 years later, chances are that topic isn't super hot anymore, right?
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, people still end up getting tenure, obviously. So, because if you have to keep doing hot stuff in order to get tenure, then no one will get it. So yeah. So I think there is that 5 year lag. So I think that's my model of things. But yeah, it's sort of like, I don't know. It's I think there's another anecdote that it's like it's really hard to get like a breakout album, right? To get signed as a musician as your first one. I mean, there's all this stuff involved. But once you get one and it sells decently well, you can like usually make a second or third album, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it's much easier to keep making albums as long as your first few are okay. And like, unless you get totally out of date. But like that first breakthrough one is really hard. And that's kind of akin to the academic process of getting the tenure track position in the first place. Because that's like the most selective factor. And then once you're in it, the goal is just to stay in the game and like, keep doing well and to stay in the game, which is, it's a lot of work, but it feels like it's a lot of work, but it's not like dauntingly impossible. Like you're just flipping a coin. Whereas I think the hiring process is, a lot of luck and timing and everything.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to do anything super crazy. Yeah,
that's right. You don't have to do anything super crazy. Like you just got to do well and just stay the course. All right. Do not expect to do something like like super crazy.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so that's that spiel. But I don't know. Are you ever thinking about changing paths?
Well, I mean,
you do have your PhD. You did finish your PhD, so
You brought up the deep learning stuff. We could talk about it more next time, but like I whipped through a lot of material and just practicing implementing models and so on.
So you're actually hands-on feeling it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot, and like maybe I'm buying into the hype or whatever, but I'm pretty far in terms of like people who are bullish on it. I tend to agree with them a lot more than the skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're really feeling it. Yeah. So I'm, I keep up with that stuff at a very casual level, right? Just so I know what's going on, since it's, it's obviously important and there's a lot of stuff going on. But I'm not at the point where neither myself nor my students are hands-on on it. And in fact, maybe this is more of a, sorry, but in fact, I would, when we're generating project ideas and stuff, I would purposely not go down that path because I'm like, I don't have much intuition on it. I don't have any students with intuition on it. I don't want us to go down that path where we're getting out competed by other people who actually know what they're doing with that, right?
Yeah,
at that level. Because for us, it's not like we just want to be casually in it to learn about stuff. It's like we actually want to make a lot of progress in the short term. So, really getting into that area is much tougher. But again, this is why when people are more senior in their careers, they can pivot and stuff because they can take that effort to rebind. Maybe they'll take like a sabbatical year and like get super into deep learning and then like really start up again in that, right? Which is feasible. But yeah, at this point, like the train is already on a certain path.
Yeah. You have a certain set of incentives, and it sounds like you're you're responding correctly. Yeah,
but it's something that I keep my kind of eye on. But I think I predict that in the HCI world in the next few years, there'll be a lot of work and visualization in HCI on these interactive machine learning systems, and how to interact with them and how to debug them, how to visualize what's going on, how to, understand what's going on and stuff. There's just a lot around that. It's just that I am personally not in that area. I mean, it's similar. It's funny because so Jeff Hare, who is on my committee at Stanford, and he moved to UW. He's obviously a world expert visualization stuff. Like, he did not get into this education MOOC whatever bandwagon thing at all, right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, MOOCs, let's just like do a bunch of visualization stuff MOOCs, right? He just kept doing what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
Because he's really good at doing that. So he like never got on that bandwagon. I'm sure he knows about it because he's exposed to it, but like, yeah, so he just kind of stayed the course on the stuff he was really good at. And it's like there's a lot of stuff that's interesting to do, right? It's like I'm interested in medical informatics or whatever, but I don't want to like pivot my whole research agenda to medicine or whatever. Like, there's a lot of really interesting topics. It's just the subset of which that you're in the position to attack is fairly narrow when you're junior, right? I mean, when you're more senior, you can imagine broadening out and being more diffuse. But I think there is definitely that incentive to focus at the junior level.
Yeah. Because you need an edge. Yeah. If you just do another random deep learning paper, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, and it's like we don't even know if we can do it that well because we're not like we're not spun up on that. So yeah, I think I made a video about this actually, about just kind of this, because this is the fall. I'm gonna go pretty soon, but this is because this is the fall and we are starting a new round of projects. I have new grad students, or my students are starting new projects. We're doing the brainstorming and project ideation phase, and one of the big things I keep emphasizing is this. I think I have a video on this that I have to publish soon, or maybe I did publish. Is thinking about something that's like, that we somehow have experience in doing, that's relatively lower hanging fruit for us, but is hard for other people.
Yeah.
That's kind of and that people actually will care about, right? So it's like it's really finding that differentiating factor and thinking strategically about that. That and in a way that helps constrain the search space too, because otherwise it's like, what are we going to do? We can do anything. It's like it's like you're just sitting with a blank piece of paper. It's like way too broad. So then starting constrained by our respective skills and experiences starts making stuff a lot more concrete. But yeah, I didn't know any of this in grad school, but that's another. We're all clueless, but
all right, cool, dude.
All right, man. Until next, we got one in 3 weeks, right? Because you're heading out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sounds. Yeah.
All right, dude. We're gonna stop the broadcast, and until next time, we're signing off.
All right, later.